Dan. I heard we're doing the major, Dan. We appear to be doing a major. Hello and welcome to the show, to the FACEIT League Stage 3, the final stage. As you have seen recently, there are finals which are going to be at DreamHack Winter this year, which I'm very excited about. How about you? That's great. So let's have a look at our schedule for the week, see what games we have, for today, see what games we have coming up. We have 5 games coming your way, starting with Envy versus Titan, Fnatic versus Envy, Kinguin or G2 versus TSM, then G2 versus Envy, then TSM versus Fnatic. It's a heavy hitting day of matches, Dan.
Absolutely. It was really hard to figure out, like, where do you put your focus today, because there's so many good teams. We've got Fnatic twice, TSM twice, G2 twice. I mean, Titan are playing once, and as we know, they've been struggling a lot on the league at the moment. They're really struggling. They haven't won a single game, James. Not a single game. They've lost 6 maps.
Dan, I can't say that's a good start. In fact, you could say it's a bad start, Dan. Why don't we indeed have a look at the rankings and see how all of these teams are doing at the moment. So again, we can see TSM a bit ahead in terms of games played here, 8 games, and they are 6 points clear of Envy. Do you want to go through the rest?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we expect Fnatic to just always top the league, and they're doing pretty well, but there's so many games to be played yet. We'll have to see if they can keep their consistency. Right now, going into the major, that's the big storyline. You know, Fnatic finally don't look as consistent. Teams are starting to really get onto their level, and you can really see it happening here. Virtus.pro, they haven't played almost any matches either, so it's still really early days for them as well. And I mean, NIP, I think is one team that's quite interesting, because is this legacy now, is it over, James? Is the legacy of NIP completely over? There was a huge peak, and I don't think the trough is ever going to recover, because it seems like there's going to be a lot of movement. At least that's what the rumors are saying. And HellRaisers, they're also having a really hard time with this new lineup. Although the new HellRaisers lineup has actually been quite interesting to watch, I must say. Of course, you know, seeing some, you know, Oscar playing with them is really nice. And he's so skilled, but you can see that that's actually, he's struggling to actually transition the skill that he, you know, when he's grinding all those FPL matches and doing really well in the PUG environment. We're seeing him have, you know, it's troubles here and there converting that, you know, where there are a bit more restrictions team play wise, just because he doesn't play as crazy of a role as Simple, where Simple can just always be explosive, whereas Oscar's trying to play, you know, more role related within the team. So yeah, it's interesting to see how that's actually going to end up, you know, being, especially as they have Stico as well. So lots of interesting stuff going on with HellRaisers, but this is a horrible start. I don't know if we'll see them actually make it through to the LAN at this rate.
So we have 2 players to watch for today. Envy with 3 matches on the board. We're going to be looking at Kenny S. Opinions?
Yeah, Kenny S, of course. I mean, what a story he's had, actually. You know, initially, he seemed like this god tier player, and then we had that the nerf to the AWP, and he never seemed to. There was a huge question mark. Will he ever, you know, retain the former glory that was known? Because Kenny S was on another level. There was no one, you know, when he was really at his peak that could challenge what he was able to do. And we're starting to see now in this new lineup with Envious, Kenny S is starting to bring everything back. Of course, he can never have the same style as he used to before the patch, but he's starting to actually play as we would like to see him play. Just we can see that skill there. We can see that any psychological, you know, blocks that he may have had previously, that's starting to go away in this new lineup. And actually, I spoke to Happy last weekend, and it's really funny because I said to him, right, the first Star Series that I did, right, I had a conversation with him at 3 AM in a hotel lobby. I said, Happy, you know, with your original teams, you're very strategical, very tactical. You know, everything's very planned. In Envious, it's madness, it's chaos. Do you like playing like this? And he said, you know, actually, this is just working right now. I don't like playing like this. This is not how I want to play Counter-Strike. And then, you know, fast forward, Envious collapses based on this style, and now we have the new team. And I was like, okay, so I'm happy. You know, are you happy with what's going on with your new team? It's like, no, I'm still not happy with how I'm playing the game. So, okay, well, this guy, why is he called Happy, James? Because he's never content.
Well, it's time to go through the alpha draft picks, Dan. And I was AFK, so Dan's done all the picks himself. Or he's about to.
Yeah, so the thing with the alpha draft picks here is that, like, how do you actually pick out of all these teams? It's very hard to call any of the matches themselves. You know, Titan, they have had good results on Train in the past. So, on Mirage in the past, sorry. But the last time they beat Envious, which is going to be the first match, was actually on Cash. And in the last 9-8 maps or so, I think it was, Envious have defeated Titan, and Titan only won once, and that was a Cash. So you don't really like Titan's chances, but generally speaking, G2, it's Dust 2. It's hard to predict what's going to happen because that map can be so random in some ways. So just generally speaking, it's impossible. So what I wanted to do in this time is I want to take a team that doesn't have much value, because we always take teams where, that have the most value. So let's select a team that has like the least value. That'd be Titan this time around, $2,600. So now we have that. We can actually like pump all the money into players, and I think that's a good approach actually. I mean, do you like this approach, James?
Yes.
Because we can pump all the money into players, because we don't know who's going to win the matches, right? So why invest in a team? And if Titan lose their match, at least that we've only invested in a team that's playing once, so they can't. We have limited our losses essentially.
Agree.
Okay, so let's take an envious player. Let's pick up MBK. He's $9,500, James. He's rather expensive.
I'm going to let you pick everyone today, and then tomorrow, I'm going to pick everyone.
Okay, all right.
It's going to be great.
All right, MBK, yeah, he's a pretty good, pretty consistent as well. And considering that the match, we got a lot of Dust 2 today, MB playing one Dust 2, and they're playing a Train as well. I feel like he's always going to be a good pick if you're unsure. And Device, TSM. This guy, I mean, Thorin's saying he's the best player in the world right now, and there's definitely an argument to be made for that, considering his consistency. And with all the Dust 2s that are going to be present, I just love Device for that. I think he's going to be a consistent pick there. Kenny S, I mean, I just love choosing AWPers if I can, so I'm going to pick Device and Kenny S. Again, Envy is playing twice, so I feel like that's a pretty good choice. And again, Dust 2s, loads of Dust 2s today. And Scream and Jakem, get them in there as well.
Nice.
The G2 boys. G2 Kingwin boys. So Scream and Jakem. I mean,
Scream is definitely playing for Titan now.
Yeah, and he doesn't have as much value as you might expect. So I think that's quite cool. I think he's a good value choice there. Jakem as well. I'm not sure how that's going to go, but hey, we can finish it off with Dupree.
Interestingly, Device has a higher KD than NBK, but he's cheaper than NBK. That is interesting.
That is interesting.
I am curious as to what else goes into that, but we'll have to find out on another day.
Yeah, that's going to be the team. Honestly, this feels like the most random team that I could have picked, but I don't know. I feel like the match results themselves are hard to pick, so I wanted to try to get players which I feel like are consistent. Although I don't know, that could all be Bolix Japes.
Okay, well, thanks for that, and we can enter the contest. I don't even know where to go with that. Okay, I'll leave producer Reese to select something there for us to join. So we didn't go through our second player pick of the evening, which I believe is Device.
Yeah, and we already talked a little bit about Device, didn't we? Thorin, he makes this claim, and I don't want to bring Thorin's name up all the time just to say that his word is law or something. But I feel like he brings a good point, right? So I'm giving him the credit there. He gives me credit sometimes on analyst desk, so I have to throw the credit out there for him as well. So Device being the best player right now, statistically, that argument is very valid. From a statistical standpoint, all of TSM's matches, he's the most consistent player. He's always delivering, and TSM arguably one of the maybe the best team at the moment. Yep. From recent results. We do have some nice POVs of Device from recent matches, Overpass, and I think one on Cash, if I'm not mistaken, on FACEIT.com YouTube. Take that as a yes, so definitely check that out. youtube.com/FACEIT.com. That is correct. Is where the POVs go up and other things, frag movies and the like. I think it's time to do our unicorn. We need to select a match to... Oh, we have this quest. So apparently, you know the answer to this because you were a Warcraft 3 nerd. Well, I have never and will never play Warcraft. You know why, Dan? Because it's not Counter-Strike. It's as simple as that. So what do you think is the answer, James? Which Holy Knight searches for the Fallen Star? I'm going to say Paladin, but honestly... I was going to voice over that for you, but you... Go on, do it. Which Holy Knight searches for the Fallen Star? Paladin. I chose not to do a cool voiceover. I chose to do the... whatever that was. It was not cool. I was right. Do you know what it shows you, Dan? It shows you the game sucks.
Never played it, and I can still get it right with a fair amount of confidence. I knew it would be Paladin.
But you know that Uther is a Holy Knight. He's a Paladin as well.
Whatever,
so that's a tricky question.
Okay, so we've got some more unicoins. That's good because I think we didn't have any if we didn't get that right. All right, so what are we going to bet on here? Well, I think we should bet Envy versus Titan because it's almost a French matchup here.
Yeah. The thing about this matchup is that it is Mirage, and Envy is, very typically they have tended to avoid Mirage in the past. But in reality, they have great players for Mirage. They don't. There's no reason why they should not be playing Mirage, really. So
I want to vote Titan.
I would strongly advise against this.
This is why we need to do. Look, man, you picked the alpha draft, so in fact, you picked the
This
entire.
is on you.
You see what I've done here, Dan. I was like, oh yeah, Dan, you can pick the alpha draft. Yeah, go on, pick them all. And now I'll pick I'll pick the unicoins. We are going all in on Titan. And do you know why? It's because Titan, in some ways, not always maybe, but in some ways, are more drilled on Mirage than any other team. I keep referring to that second round on the T side when the pistol round has been lost. Titan have executes towards the B bomb site to get a plant, and I haven't seen that from. I think I've seen it once from one other team, but other than that, I think that's something that's just generally missing. A lot of the time, for example, you will see a T side buy a few pistols and not really have a general goal, like an organized goal. Let's say they'll just be running around and will, in most cases, just get shot individually, isolated and picked off. Whereas Titan have specific executes onto the B bomb site on Mirage to get that extra money, and that's why I want to put all my money on Titan.
Those are some nice points, Chase, but they won't help you here. You are wrong.
We shall see, Dan. We shall see.
Yes, we shall.
If we win, though, then when one of those nice PCs come back, we have to put all the unicoins into the raffle, so we can try and win one of those.
I'm okay with this.
We can have a look at the marketplace tomorrow and see if it's up yet. I wait for it with bated breath. So, our first match is going to be Titan versus Envy on Mirage.
Yeah.
Well, it seems you don't agree with me on the Titan pick, Dan, so tell me why.
Because the map is... the thing is that if you look at what Envious have to work with when it comes to the degree of types of sellers... By the way, do you remember the last time we watched them on Mirage? They bought... What was it? They bought... Was it 3 AWPs and an auto sniper? Was that was them, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure it was. Yes, it was.
But that was when at least 2 of their players were playing on a 4G connection or something. I don't know if that had something to do with it, but yes, they went for a pretty insane buy. And
I just want to point out that the fact that it doesn't matter what they do. They have all the tools to work with. It's just how they want to make them work on the day. The only thing that I think really works in Titan's favor is that they have this domestic matchup sort of thing going on. And when you have domestic matchups, you have teams and players that know each other so incredibly well. What happens is, to try to make this less ambiguous for you, is that there's more meta elements that can be abused for the players because the players know each other quite well. They know the tendencies a little bit better. And so what happens then is, in spots where you don't have information, like let's say you're playing against a CT setup, or as a CTs you don't know what's going on, you can narrow down a lot of possibilities just because you have played them so many times and you know the kinds of behavior and tendencies that they exhibit most of the time. So that's generally why these domestic matchups can be quite awkward, is because it feels like when you're playing that matchup, it feels like you're kind of playing each other wrong because you're essentially stuff you shouldn't be able to know, basically, or have a very strong strong likelihood of happening because you have that experience. And by the way, this is also the problem that, for example, NA has, because it's what happens when you just play one team all the time.
I think, if I'm going to be honest, it's a very good map for Kenny S. We've seen that historically, between rotating from mids to the jungle area, looking towards A, around to CT as well. He's very dangerous in those 3 areas, especially on the CT side, and I think he'll be more of a danger on the CT side than the T side. And again, we spoke about the AWP nerf previously. It's not physically possible to do some of the things that he used to be able to do before. But we've kind of seen hints at previous highs on Inferno and other maps recently. So we'll see if that will carry through to Mirage. I think we're just waiting for 1 or 2 players to join.
And he also has Happy to basically play every position with the AWP as well. Happy used to be a player back in the early LDLC days. I actually remember making a video on him before anybody knew who he was, James. I was making videos about Happy because I knew. All right.
They were one of my favorite teams. I love that lineup.
Yeah,
it was
me
so
too.
much fun to watch the growth.
But he used to AWP back then, right, on Mirage, and he wasn't an AWPer back then. He never really AWPed. He was the in-game leader. He created all the strategies, all the tactics. He coordinated his team. But what he would do on Mirage, he would AWP. And I asked him one time, it's like, I never see you AWPing, but except Mirage, and you only specifically do it in this one place, like situationally. And he basically said to me the reason was because back then he just felt like that just felt good. It just felt like it fit well with what everyone else was doing, and the job itself that he was doing on short had so many, there's very few decisions that he had to make. So basically it allowed him to focus on more of what's going on around the map, because he's just on short, and everybody else around you, I mean, you're spotting into mid, but if you get flashed out, I mean, you're not really going to be pushing there unless your teammates are, but you can keep it simple basically. And that's what he did. And so Happy's, he's very experienced at AWPing on this map, and these days he does everything, James. The aggressive AWPing, the passive angle holding AWPing, just everything. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's always fun to see Happy's AWPing, and it's really interesting that it's continued through time as well. He's had a bit of criticism here and there from analysts and so on about the AWPing, but I mean, Envy looking like, who knows, maybe 2 months from now we might be asking the question if they're the best team in the world. I think a few people are at the moment, but again, still early days. You can see some frustrations in the Fnatic camp from recent results and performances. And again, Happy, a person who's never satisfied with the performance of his team. It's always a good thing.
Yeah, it's good quality. Yeah.
But then it's TSM as well. Looking at, again, this is a FACEIT League with finals heading towards DreamHack Winter. Of the 2 stages we've had so far, TSM have won both stages. Like, what if they win the 3rd stage as well? And then never mind the major coming up in 2 weeks. There's a lot going on, Dan. What if they do win all 3 stages though? I feel like maybe something special should be done. But I have no idea what.
I guess we can figure that out. We can figure it out. We can drop cake on them or something.
Drop cake on them.
Yeah.
So wait, what did we do? Stage 1, we launched confetti things onto them.
Yep.
Stage 2, well, they were on a stage at DreamHack Valencia. Stage 3, DreamHack Winter. I don't know. We're just waiting for NBK at the moment. He has a bit of internet connection issues, maybe a routing thing. So we should be into the match very soon indeed. But for now, we must wait, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to another, like, there's so many more reasons why I think that they have a better chance on Mirage, because even on the T side, just you've got players like Apex, for example, who can just go absolutely ham. If he just gets forward into middle, he can just go and kill everyone. And that's a big problem. This is what we saw when Envious were against Fnatic not so long ago, that in this situation, the skill can just be so overwhelming that it doesn't necessarily matter. Like, what we observe to be, okay, this is how you play Counter-Strike, this is how it works. When you get a team like this, they can push the limits, they can create. That's why I was really excited when I saw like the 3 AWPs and 1 auto sniper. I was like, well, this is the team that can make that work, because that's ridiculous. It's absurd, isn't it? Yeah. But I mean, especially on the Mirage, and especially against, like, imagine if they did that versus Titan, who have all the smokes all perfect. Like, what are you gonna do? But
I feel like this.
What do you feel?
I feel like from historically looking at Titan, obviously, you would argue that we're seeing a much stronger Titan. Like Apex used to, not Apex, Maniac, excuse me, used to play Lurker on the T side, for example. So if they went for an A execute and he was stopping a rotate from top mid, Maniac would be the man to stop that now. But Maniac's been replaced with Shox now. But basically, Shox came in and they shared a lot of roles, which Shox essentially was better at, in Maniac's own words. So Shox took over those roles, and they have Scream as well. So, I mean, they are. You might say they're almost just as dangerous.
Yeah, they're definitely, it's dangerous. But will they be as consistent? And I feel like it depends so much on. I feel like it depends so much on how well Shox is playing and how well Scream can be playing, that if they're having a little bit of an off day, then things can kind of collapse a little bit. But a lot of like Envious and also like Fnatic, that's how these, and also TSM, like these 3 teams have such ridiculous levels of skill on the team. Virtus.pro to an extent as well, that if one of the guys that you're expecting to perform, like let's say Device is not having the best game, Cajun B could just be going massive, for example, or it could be Carrigan Karrigan frequently does insane things. If you get into like a really like ropey situation, Zipnix is going to play incredibly like consistently and well for your team. He's always going to be left over somewhere, and he's going to play it really well. Like there's always these players that can save the day. And a problem that Titan used to have was that they didn't have this as much because they were always relying on Kenny S. You know, back in the days when they had Kenny S, they're always relying on one or two players, and that can be problematic. That's why, you know, Maniac got a lot of criticism, because people would easily say, well, this guy, you know, he must be the worst on the team. He must be the reason why they're losing. And then he stepped up his game. I was really impressed with Maniac. He made a lot of leaps with his game.
Yeah, I think long term, Fnatic have been the best example of that. Again, we saw Crims recently with a 32 bomb on the CT side of Inferno alone. Olofmeister doing crazy things like that as well, and there's, you know, JW obviously. But yeah, that's a very good question. Is the current Titan lineup capable of that? Obviously, Existence has taken up more aggressive roles and is up there on the scoreboard as well, but you're definitely going to be looking towards Scream and Shocks to be the ones getting the frags. But are they going to use Scream in an aggressive enough position? I'm quite curious actually to see how they're going to use this Titan lineup on Mirage, because obviously I was well versed with how they used to when they're all lined up with Maniac and so on, but this one we'll have to see.
Yeah.
And again, it's still an early roster, so there's a lot of development to do, and I believe we should be starting very soon indeed. The knife did go live some time ago, so when GoTV catches up, we should be all good in the hood.
I mean, in fairness, you know, Scream has opportunities on a map like this, if the coordination is right, to have space to work with on the T side, because there's some issues you might have is that, you know, Scream is not necessarily going to be in these very forward fragging roles on this team, whereas that's kind of what you want him to be doing. You want him to be able to survive mid-round, to be able to take a lot of shots, because he's very good, obviously, when it comes to dealing with multiple players. You don't want to just trade him. Like, for example, let's say with Freakazoid. Freakazoid, you know, a lot of his job is to get the trade on the T side. That's so incredibly important, because your team is still going to be an advantage, but someone like Scream, you can get more out of his skill by keeping him alive a bit longer. So, and this is why, you know, Shocks is, you know, why you want an incredibly skilled player being the kind of lurker role, and why that switches between Olaf and Flusher on Fnatic. Because you've got these two players that, so the longer they survive, the more likely it is that they're going to make a kill or change the round for your team. So that's interesting as well.